Hello, welcome back to Mountain Gym Card Collectibles. So today I want to talk about something that has been bothering me for a while, and it's just kind of the way that sports card collectors, sports card channels kind of live in a world that's somewhat a mirage. And what do I mean? Well, this statement, you will own nothing and be happy, comes to mind. You might ask yourself, well, what do I mean? I own sports cards. Hey, I own sports cards too. But let's face it, are they the sports cards that you really want? Think about that. So I'll read a little bit of this. This is a Google AI overview. You will own nothing and be happy, a phrase associated with the World Economic Forum, WEF, and their vision of a future where individuals rely on access-based consumption rather than owning things. I almost feel like that's what a lot of people in sports cards do is they see all of the YouTube shows, whatever, and they feel like they actually kind of own something or are part of something. But anyway, or maybe you're someone that owns digital cards, I mean, not to throw that in your face, but do you really own that digital card? Or are you someone like me who, you live on the fringes of, surviving, and so everything you get, you have to immediately turn around and flip and resell? Anyway, the phrase originates from a 2016 essay by Ida Auken, a Danish politician, published by the WEF. The essay paints a picture of a future where individuals don't own possessions but instead access what they need through a sharing economy. This idea is part of a broader discussion about potential societal and economic shifts, including the rise of the sharing economy and the changing nature of ownership. Yeah, rent everything, own nothing. And that's about the way it is anymore, in a lot of things. All right, but then that brings me to sports card collectors, and I've studied a lot of mythology, ancient mythology, and there was a holiday that came to mind, Saturnalia. It seems like a lot of sports card people kind of live in the realm of Saturnalia. This popular festival dedicated to Saturn, the god of agriculture, was known for its joyous and chaotic atmosphere where social norms were suspended. During Saturnalia, slaves were allowed to relax, participate in festivities, and even be served by their masters. Gambling, usually restricted, was permitted for everyone. All right? And, there was a golden age in the past where most people had the opportunity to do everything. And to me, one of the golden ages would be like the 80s and 90s, of like, say, I could afford to go to McDonald's. I mean, you could get a combo meal at McDonald's, quarter pounder with cheese, Big Mac, $2.99. You get some fries and a drink, $2.99. That's affordable. Movies, I could go to movies back then in the 80s and 90s, spend maybe $5, maybe buy, some popcorn for $5, big bag. I spent $10. Nowadays, you're going to spend anywhere from $15, $16 to $20 for a ticket, if not more, depending on where you're at, and then all the other things on top of it. It is very expensive. Housing, the same thing, was very affordable at one time, but we know that with all the private equity firms, in our stock market, that's very predatory. That's made things out of reach for a lot of people as well. So there was a golden age, and there was a golden age of sports cards too during that time, too. 80s and 90s, I'd go buy sports cards. I wouldn't even really think about spending, money on them because it didn't cost a lot. I'd spend more on fishing than I did on sports cards because to go fishing, it costs a lot more. But nowadays, it's the opposite. It costs a lot more to get into sports cards. And then, we always have, this thing lingering over our head, are you waking up in the morning and telling yourself that you're actually going to have a chance at something like, for instance, the 2024 Topps MLB debut patch autograph Paul Skeens that sold for $1.11 million to, Dick's Sporting Goods. It went to Dick's Sporting Goods. You will own nothing and be happy. Yeah, maybe you got to see some pictures of it. We heard the great story that honestly feels like a piece of fantasy. I can't prove that, but it just really felt suspicious of a guy, or a little kid waking up on, Christmas morning and they had like one box and he opens it up and there it is. It's just like, I can't prove it's fiction, but it just sounded too good to be true. And then, of course, when you go to the Topps sites, wherever you're at, whether it be X, Instagram, well, they're always selling the dream, Here we're going for, chase down this LeBron James rookie card. And, they always like to highlight, the best cards that they have here. This Albert Pujols, 1 out of 5. And they're highlighting this Paul Skeens and Andrew McCutchen, dual auto from Topps Finest. Here we see another Paul Skeens Inception. Notice how they're always hyping up the Paul Skeens, on the Topps site on X. I mean, all the time. Why is that? Gotta sell the dream. Gotta sell the dream. But at the end of the day, I hope you're telling yourself you will own nothing and be happy, because that's really what they're giving you. Is they're giving you little tastes, little tidbits, but it's not for you. It's for people who have a lot of money. Maybe a big corporation like Dick's Sporting Goods. This stuff is not for you. And it just goes back to you will own nothing and be happy. More Paul Skeens. Hey, let's highlight, these autos, and Garbage Pail Kids from Green Day. You're not going to get those. These are one of ones. These are meant for the wealthy acolytes of the hobby. Here's a one of one Tim McGraw. Topps Now. I don't like Topps Now. They're Bollywood Jr. Jack Caglianone. Duato. And notice how they're always hyping this stuff on the Topps site. And you want to know why they do it, It just goes along with you will own nothing and be happy. Aren't you happy looking at this stuff? Because that's as close as you're going to get to it, if you know what I mean. You will own nothing, be happy. And then go back to your, get into a break and get some rotten cards, just a few cards, and you spend a lot of dough. And then you can always go to, the Topps Fanatics live site. But this is, I'm just on Instagram here. And this is the Topps site as well, but I just want to bring up the point that they're always selling the dream. Topps is always selling the dream. President Bush mails his autographed cards to father and son. I could care less. Dominic Mysterio bought his own one of one WrestleMania autographed card. Of course, he's got a lot of cash. That's about what it takes to get that card, isn't it? You gotta be like the guy that's signing it. That's about the only person who can afford it. You will own nothing and be happy. One of one Cooper Flag pulled caught on security camera. I could care less. But it is what it is. And it's just always the selling of the dream. Sell the dream. That's what sports card channels do on YouTube. Sell the dream. Sell the dream. Sell the dream. But the issue that I have with selling the dream, I keep bringing this up because it's just a dream. You have to realize you're not a millionaire. You're not famous. You're not a celebrity. You're not someone that these cards are meant for. You will own nothing and be happy. Isn't that the truth, though? But are you happy, taking the bait, taking, the pictures, taking the daily, baiting of the hook from Topps Fanatics or Panini? Are you satisfied with what you have? Be honest. Don't you want these awesome cards? Wouldn't you like a chance to get them? But they are just so outrageously expensive. They're always designated for breakers. Back to the reality of the situation. You will own nothing and be happy. That is what Topps, Fanatics, and Panini really want of you. They want you to understand that you're part of the caste system. You are the lowest rung on the totem pole. And I hate to be the one to bring it up to you, but it's the truth. Unless I'm, someone who's watching this who's a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, or you're a celebrity, I doubt you'd watch my show. Anyway, that's what my point was, is so much of the sports card hobby these days is all about selling the dream, pretending that it's a tangible option for you to collect. But it isn't tangible at all. It's intangible. It's made for people who are not you. You know, the Dominic Mysterio has his own 1-of-1. Why? Because that's about what it takes, isn't it? You know, it costs so much money to get in these awesome cards that Topps is always hyping up. Eventually, you begin to realize that they're meant for someone that is not you at all. And then you can go look at the box prices, you know. I mean, you're looking almost, you know, $400, $300, you know, for, 2025 Topps Chrome Hobby Box Baseball. If you get into a Mega Box Topps Chrome Hobby Box Baseball, you're looking at $600, $700. And that's just low end for the most part, you know. So eventually, hopefully it changes back to a time, another golden age, I like to call it. People might call this a golden age. Yeah, it's a golden age for billionaires, big corporations, you know. Hey, good for you. It's not a golden age for your average people, you know. I mean, the McDonald's Big Mac is an average price anywhere from $5 to $6, $7. I mean, come on, you know. I mean, this is not an age for average people these days. This is an age where you have to be wealthy and tied to the wealthiest people imaginable. You have to look at our president, Donald Trump. I mean, the guy is known for worshiping gold, worshiping himself. You know, he created the me generation. It is what it is. It's an age for the 1%. And, you know, I was thinking, you know, last night, I'm like, you know, if I could move to a country that was more affordable, I could probably afford a lot of these cards a lot more. I could enjoy the hobby more. I just feel like I'm living in a country that's just using me and abusing me to give all of my money to what they believe the people who deserve it the most. And who is that? The 1%, you know. I mean, Greg Gianforte, he's our governor here in Montana. He's part of the 1%. He could just go live a normal life. He makes life hell for a lot of people. He really does. And it's not just him, but I also look at Michael Rubin and Topps Fanatics the same way as like Greg Gianforte. They just make life hell for a lot of people. It's not like they're making people smile. They're making life hell on you. Don't pretend they're not. So anyway, I'd like to thank my subscribers. I like to thank my recent subscribers, which I haven't had any recent subscribers lately. But hey, maybe that could be you. Maybe you could actually hit the button. And I hope you have a great day and tune again for the next episode of Mountain Jim Card Collectibles. I'm out of here. Bye.